Hello, everybody. Welcome to our show today. Sorry for that one. Thank you so much for Lisa for sending that in. I didn't hit the go live button. So I was over here just talking away all by myself. Yeah, it's not a Monday either. You would think I could blame Monday for this. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Yes, it was not a system issue. It was just simply me not hitting the go live button. Anyway, welcome everybody. Hope you had a great weekend out there. Hope you did something fun for Memorial Day. Went to crab feeds and all you can. Oh, it's a great weekend. Had a very, very, very good weekend. So a lot to talk about. Obviously, we could talk about the equity markets. We could talk about oil, which we're going to talk about, and certainly Nvidia. But I want to start things off by talking about. I know you're like, Merlin, I'm so sick of this cryptocurrency. Yeah, I'm going to Bitcoin. And essentially, I want to start with this story about Mt.Gox, which kind of has been in the crypto world for quite some time, but I thought it'd be noteworthy to talk about it today. So before I get into it, how many of you know what Mt.Gox stands for? Like, what they get started doing? The industry now knows Mt.Gox as it was the largest Bitcoin exchange in the world. At one point, over 70% of all of the transactions happening in Bitcoin were going through Mt.Gox. I mean, you're talking monumental amounts of Bitcoin all going through Mt.Gox. Now, that's not what made them famous. What made them famous was a hack of over 850,000 Bitcoin was stolen from Mt.Gox, and there was a lot of speculation as to why that was, what happened, where did it go, who took it, etc. So if you think you know what Mt.Gox starts for, type it into chat. I'm happy to see if anybody knows what it stands for. It's actually pretty funny. So Mt.Gox, Mt.Gox, stands for Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. It had nothing to do with Bitcoin. Initially, Mt.Gox was simply a place for the kids or people who played Magic the Gathering to go and trade their playing cards. And then it morphed into the exchange that it was. And of course, you know, anybody who's in the crypto world knows Mt.Gox, at least has heard that name. And the reason that it is a topic today is that they moved over the weekend over $9 billion worth of Bitcoin. And here's the reason why it's such a panic moment for a lot of crypto people is you have all of this Bitcoin, roughly $9 billion worth, has moved from one wallet to another. Now, they have been embroiled in bankruptcy court and trying to figure out how to settle this and pay back creditors and everything. And we're getting that moment now where this Bitcoin is going to be returned to its owners. We don't know whether it's the full amount. I believe from what I was reading, it was like 15% on the dollar is what they're going to be getting. So if you had 15 Bitcoin, you'd be getting one. Regardless, fine. Honestly, if I had 15 Bitcoin in Mt.Gox and I only get one back, I'm still rich. I'm still, not rich, but I'm still making a lot more money than my 15 Bitcoin were back at the time. I believe when the exchange went under, Bitcoin is about $400 per Bitcoin. So you have all of this money sitting there about to be pushed out to creditors. And people are freaking out because what this may symbolize is a lot more Bitcoin coming into the marketplace, to the tune of, billions of dollars worth. Now, the question I have for you is, what do you think is going to happen? If all of a sudden you now have this Bitcoin in your account, it's been given back to you, are you going to sell it right away? Will you just put it on a Coinbase account, start liquidating, hit that sell button, and just unload your Bitcoin? I don't know. I personally don't think that that's going to happen. I think what you're going to get is there might be some people that are going, hey, great, I'll just take some profits, cash out, call it a day. But I think the people who are going to get their coins back have probably had the best financial advisor in life, which was their assets were frozen. They were frozen from 2010 to 2014 all the way through today. And so that little 8-year freeze on their accounts has made whoever had Bitcoin on Mt.Gox very, very wealthy. So Lori says Bitcoin will drop in price. Part of me says it will. Now, but the only issue, what I've been seeing, is it seems like every time Bitcoin falls, you're getting a pretty good buy base put in. Like it seems like a lot of buying is coming in and supporting all the most recent sell-offs. I'll show you here. Let's go to here. And Jesse, by the way, I got both your emails. So before I go one step further, you guys, please do me a favor. If you get a message from me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Discord, if you get a direct message from me asking you about your crypto and me to trade it, understand it's a scam. I'm not going to message you. Tell that to anybody you know. There are too many freaking scammers out there trying to steal crypto money from you. I am not one of them. So yeah, I guess Jesse got someone reached out to him and was like, "Hey, how's your trading going? Trade through me." Scam, 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 scam. There is no, yeah, I guess you were talking about some copy, follow my trade kind of website trying to get him to buy it. So nope. I'm not going to try to get you to trade. Whatever. I'm just here for education, and you guys do what you want with your money. I will never manage your money. I don't want it. You guys keep it. Was all this Bitcoin presumed gone for good? Yes. And again, Lisa, that's an important piece because, let's round up and call it 1 million Bitcoin. There are sites that have calculated that there is roughly 6 million Bitcoin that haven't moved in the last 5 years. And if it hasn't moved in 5 years, a lot of people presume that Bitcoin is lost. So the fact that this all of a sudden is back it's good and bad, right? Because now the supply curve has kind of shifted a little bit more. We now have this extra 850,000 Bitcoin coming back into the market. We know it's not lost. We know where it's at. It's in part of this bankruptcy proceeding, and it will be coming to market. So in theory, it actually should push Bitcoin price down a little bit. But then again, that assumes that these people will instantly sell it. And I would believe that a large group of the people who have this Bitcoin sitting there understand that they're in a really good position. And why not just leave it there, pretend it doesn't exist? You've already had it, sitting there for over a decade and you couldn't touch it. So just leave it there a little bit longer and you'll probably be much wealthier down the road. I think there'll be a lot of people like that. I would be one of those people. I think many of you would as well, that you're just going to sit there and go, I'll just leave it there and, let it keep going and going and going. Especially those people who have like 5, 10, 15,000 Bitcoin sitting there, which I'm sure there's plenty of people. Because you remember back in 2010, Bitcoin was like 20 cents, 30 cents, maybe $1. So, you got 1,000 Bitcoin. Maybe it cost you $500 worth. And you're like, the time was $500. Now 1,000 Bitcoin's worth $70 million. Yeah. Actually, 1,000 Bitcoin would be $70 million and probably worth $250 million by the end of next year, in my opinion. What does Tom say? 9 billion in Bitcoin is about 1/3 of a day's volume at 0.01% of total Bitcoin market cap. So the numbers aren't as big as the headlines, right? Correct. And that's the other part here. What is concerning is so much supply is coming back into the market, right? So liquidity is going to become much deeper. You're going to have a lot more volume. But I think personally, a lot of these people are going to just keep their Bitcoin and not do much with it. Are you going to have some people that cash out and go buy themselves a Lambo and flaunt their money? Absolutely. You're going to get those. But I don't think it's going to be a big portion of it. So, something to keep an eye on. If we look at this chart of Bitcoin here, there's the spot price. Let me get my, I'll leave those there. This has been news that's coming out for a while, right? It's not like it's a mystery that Mt.Gox is going through this process and will start to pay back its creditors. There's no mystery there. It's actually been holding up fairly well, honestly. But we haven't got to the point of exactly when those distributions will happen, and I'll let you know as soon as I find out when they actually get distributed. That's when you'll probably see a little bit of a drop in Bitcoin. So just food for thought for anybody who's looking for more opportunity to buy Bitcoin. You may get some in the next few months if this does flood the market with Bitcoin, but I personally don't think it's going to. I think there's a lot of people, not just on the retail, but the institutional side, who are accumulating and buying and holding Bitcoin going forward, particularly with all of the regulation and stuff. I don't know if you guys saw over the weekend what Donald Trump said about Bitcoin. He's pounding the table. He's a genius man when it comes to PR and marketing and getting votes, right? If you think about what The Apprentice did. The Apprentice, the show, wasn't about good companies or running it. It was about getting viewers to watch that show. So he's a master at using a topic to get people interested, to tune in and keep staying there. He did two things, which, I know Tom's over here going, oh, Trump's got your vote. No, he doesn't. But he said, totally fine with Bitcoin. I think it should be, legal tender, and let's just keep pushing Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. He's pandering to people like me. The other thing that he did, which is pandering as well, is Ross Ulbricht, who you may know. Ross Ulbricht was the guy who ran Silk Road. He basically put together a website where you could buy and sell anything that you wanted, which seems to be one of our American liberties. However, when you say anything you wanted, that included black tar heroin, murder for hire, children, tanks, weaponry, you name it. You could buy anything on the Silk Road using Bitcoin as a payment. So when he got caught, Ross Ulbricht, who basically just set this website up, was busted, and he's now serving life in prison. And there are a lot more dangerous, nefarious people that should spend their lives in prison than this poor guy, who I'm sure has learned his lesson. I'm sure he'll come out and say, hey, I won't touch a computer again for the rest of my life. Just get me out of this prison. So we'll see what happens. But Donald Trump said, I'm going to commune Ross Ulbricht's sentence day one in office. And there are thousands of people who he just got their vote instantly because of that. I guarantee you, anybody who's a supporter of Ross Ulbricht is going to be use that guy as cannon fodder. So very interesting. I told you guys this 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, that when we get towards this election, you're going to start to hear more and more talk about digital assets as a tool to bring in voters. And you're already starting to see that pick up. RFK has also said he's going to have back the US dollar with Bitcoin. I can tell you that's not going to happen. You won't back the US dollar with Bitcoin. But it sounds great, and that's also, in my opinion, pandering for votes to get people like me to go, ooh, I'll vote for you because you're going to make it, back the US dollar with it. Trump also met with some people and was been asking if Bitcoin, if there's a way for Bitcoin to help us get out of debt. And it's like, actually, yeah, there is. Just stop printing more money. Let's watch our expenses. So it's interesting seeing how these politicians, and I assume that we'll see Joe Biden as well jump on this train somehow. I made the point that one thing I hate about politics is you could have candidate A, who represents one party, say, I like something, and candidate B, who represents the opposing party, even though they might like that and agree with it, they'll say they hate it because they can't agree with that other party. So are we going to see this polarization where, okay, the Republicans are going to be 100% crypto, and now all of a sudden the Democrats are like, oh man, we have to be anti-crypto now? Smart move. Smart chess move there by Trump. So we'll see how it all plays out come election time, but it is becoming more and more of a topic. Digital assets, the dollar. Anyway, good stuff. So bottom line is, I'm not worried about this Bitcoin moving at all. I'm curious to see how much of an impact it has when it does get released. When does this actually go and become distributed? I do not know that. Again, I'm still bullish going all the way through middle to late next year. And after that, then, what would be perfect timing for me is if Mt.Gox, somewhere around September or October of next year, said, hey, we're going to release now. That would line up with that 4-year cycle. It'd just be perfect timing for it to dump right there on that release. So that was your major piece of news for the day. For those of us here in the Bitcoin space, we love it. It's like, fine, bring it on. Bring more attention to the space, honestly. This has gathered a lot of headlines. And while it's $9 billion, if you go out here, let me real quickly bring this up for you guys. It's $9 billion worth of value, which is certainly a lot. When you look out here, Bitcoin has a market cap of 1.346 trillion. So 9 billion, while it sounds like, oh my gosh, what a lot of money, it's really not that big compared. So it's, Tom's point is right. It may have an impact, but honestly, I think we're seeing more and more dilution of Bitcoin amongst the populations around the world. I don't think it'll have that big of an impact. If we look technically, where do I think it's going to go? Let's say they unload it. I don't see it getting any lower than 50. I think 50 is probably a price level we'll never see again. But that's just my opinion. All right. Let's see. Skilled Stockman says if Trump gets elected, he won't mess with Bitcoin like Elizabeth Warren would, and he would never create a Bitcoin centralized bank. Yeah, he didn't say backing the dollar with it, but RFK did. RFK is talking about using the Bitcoin as, backing the U.S. dollar. And I don't see the government handcuffing themselves by backing it by anything. Because remember, if the U.S. government backs the dollar with gold or silver or you name it, pick anything, they're handcuffing themselves. They can't do what they did during COVID, during the pandemic. They could never print that much money because they'd have to have so much collateral assets. Wouldn't work. And of course, that assumes that we trust their balance sheets. Now, what's great about using Bitcoin as a reserve as opposed to gold is if the government, someone's impersonating my Twitter account now too. That's great. I get so much fraud out there, Jesse. Sorry, bud. If the government did adopt something like Bitcoin or gold. I personally would say use Bitcoin as a reserve for our currency above anything, because then I could trust it. If they use gold, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the old, oh, there's so much money sitting at Fort Knox, right? I don't even think the gold's at Fort Knox anymore. But, oh, our gold's at Fort Knox. Is it? I don't know. I've never seen an actual audit or video, maybe a picture of it, but no one really knows what's there. They just tell you, here's what's there. So to me, I don't trust gold. But if they said, here's our Bitcoin wallet that the government owns, and we could see exactly how much was there, boom. That would be the best answer, right? And that would give us accountability. It would give us transparency. There's a lot of stuff that, could benefit from a blockchain type of market. RFK also is talking about putting the entire federal budget, including the armed forces, including the Federal Reserve, on blockchain so we can all see where the money's going. Now, that would be interesting. Especially some of these agencies who haven't had a balanced budget or had any auditing for decades. That would be very, you spent how much for a toilet seat? Okay, yeah, I'm going to send you to Walmart and get one for $3 as opposed to $2,500 for that toilet seat. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. All right, so let me go through my list here, and then I'll dive into some listener questions. So obviously today's highlights, Mt.Gox, Bitcoin was moving. The second element for today's discussion is that oil surge. So there has been increasing movements in the price of oil. It was just a 2-day rally here, starting with last Friday's action. It's not like this is amazing for crude oil, but it is an about face from that 5-day slide we saw last week. Now, I still think you're going to see some issues as we get closer on crude oil to that $81 mark, which is right above us. We're currently at $79.83. If we get to $81 to $81.5, that's your next supply zone on this one. But a lot of people citing the tension going on with Israel, with Israel going, closer to Gaza with tanks and stuff. You have the attack on some vessels in the Red Sea, so tension kind of heating up over there. Is this the big move that vaults it higher as I've been anticipating, or is this just a retest of this short-term downtrend? Time will tell. I don't know. Again, I keep wanting to put myself in that bullish camp with regards to crude oil, but over the past month and a half, it has not been very bullish. It's been pretty bearish. As Big Eb says, a few missiles in the Middle East, and yep, and that's what I thought was going to happen a while back, but it's been much more muted than I thought. I really thought with the whole Hamas thing and just stirring up the pot over in the Middle East, I anticipated crude oil actually getting much higher. I thought we'd be triple digits by now for sure, but I was wrong again on that one. So that's the big change. I guess the biggest gainer on the day was up at one point over 3%. It's drifting down just a little bit now in the after hours. But all in all, it's great. But where do we come up to? We came right up into those highs we saw last week, right around $80. It's staying underneath 80 for now. We'll see if that momentum or any further tension or developments in the Middle East or the Red Sea should push this even higher. Margaret says oil should reach 83.50 easily. Well, I mean, at this point, It's tough to say that. I personally think so, but again, my thoughts don't mean squat when it comes to the markets. It's all about actions and price. So if we look at these three pictures here, it's funny because you kind of have multiple stories being told. If you go back to our highs from September of 2023, I can scroll out even further, that 2023 sell-off, you can make the argument you're kind of still in this bearish phase. This was just a pullback. Well, if I zoom in here, from the lows from 2023 in December, we've been on a great uptrend. Is this just a pullback, or is this the new reversal? Technically, based off of core strategy and kind of the approaches that OTA would go through, your trend has reversed, and that would have changed back here. It would have changed back on May 1st of this year. We broke down, made a new pivot low, and now we're seeking out a new low. So it feels like the shorter term is lower lows, lower highs, because that's just what the trend's been since April. But of course, macro forces can change that at almost any moment. Let's see. Old School Famous saying, trust us. We have it. Yeah, right. Yeah, right, Tofi? I don't trust anybody. Another famous saying, Tofi, non mi fido di nessuno. Wish I could type it out on the screen for you. That means I don't trust anybody. Non mi fido di nessuno. All right. Next on our list. I wanted to title the show with this one, but I was afraid people would get upset at the picture I used. I said, show me a picture of Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, looking jacked like the biggest bodybuilder in the world, holding up the stock market like Atlas and Atlas Shrugged. Well, this is the best I got from AI. He does look pretty jacked. I mean, he's been hitting the juice a little bit here, and he dropped the leather jacket. But wow, Nvidia. And no real surprise, I guess, if we talk about what we've been discussing over the past few days, is it's probably going to have a fairly sustained, granted, I think there'll be a couple small pullbacks along the way, but we'll probably continue to rally all the way through to that split. So I know some of you, we talked about that last week after they came out with the earnings announcement, declaring a 10-to-1 split on June 10th. I personally think you're going to keep on rallying here. Now, here's the big question, and it's not a question for you. I'm just thinking out loud for myself. Historically, when you have something of this monumental of a rally, which is just such a dominant force, they make these split announcements, it usually rallies straight up, right, into the actual split date. And then it comes cratering down. So the question I have for myself is, as we get to June 8th, June 9th, do I go out and buy deep out of the money puts? Let's say it closes June 9th. Let's say we close somewhere, let's say it hits $1,300. I don't think that's even being that far of a stretch from current levels. 1,300 would put us right about here. From current levels, just if we're doing percentage gains from where we closed at today, that would give it an increase of about 14%. I don't think that's insane to think it could rally that much, especially with the momentum that's behind it right now. So let's say it does get to that $1,300 mark. Do I go out there, actually I'll use one of these old lines, do I go out there and sell the $1,000 puts? I'd go long puts, Do I go long and buy directional puts that for, we're talking $300 out of the money. And the premium probably going to be so ridiculously cheap because you're that far out of the money. That's a flyer. That's taking a pretty big gamble. To me, I think that as soon as that split happens, obviously they'll do a 10-to-1. So that means the price will be $130. And I'm assuming it'd fall probably from $130 to $115 in just a couple of days as profits being taken off the table. So I'll explore that one a little bit more when we get closer to the deadline. I'm not going to be buying puts right now, by no means. I want to see what happens to price. I think those of you who are long on Nvidia at this moment in time are in a great spot. A great spot. Lisa says, I would not buy puts on Nvidia. I know. That's what I'm saying. It's a total gamble. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form I think Nvidia is bad or overpriced. I just think that it would be historical patterns show that will sell off and tank after the split. But we shall see. I'll definitely do at least one contract, but I might do 20 or 30 depending on how I feel at the moment. But I can't see going that aggressive on it. We'll see. We'll see how it all goes. What else did I say? Yeah, exactly. That's why I like the picture. Full of steroids like the stock. Yeah, that's a good one. What do you think about break-even point is per barrel for companies to produce? Oh, I don't know. No clue, Joe. I don't look at that stuff. I mean, it's not that I don't look at it. I just haven't looked at it. John Rowland would probably be able to give you a better idea for it. I think that overall, the cost to extract a barrel of oil, at least in my opinion, and I'm not an expert in that area, is going to be going up over time. The cost of equipment is going to be surging. We have inflationary pressures on that as well. The cost of labor is going to be going up. You can factor scarcity in, but I don't think that's a big factor for now. I think it'll continue to push those prices of crude oil higher, but I don't know what that break-even point is for crude oil, unfortunately. Let's see. Lisa, I did to protect my position too. Here, sessions ago. Yeah. Now with earnings season. Yep, I remember. You did it to protect yourselves. You did it to protect yourself. You've made that money back, Big Ep. So it wasn't a total waste, but you did throw some money out. But what was that? That was a protection piece, and it didn't come to fruition. You'd be singing a different story if Nvidia came out and dropped 30% on that earnings announcement, right? So a lot of times when I do those trades as well, you're in something, you don't want to get out and buy some protection. You're like, okay, I'm just going to protect my position. You ends up losing that money, and you're like, I wish I didn't lose that, but you hopefully made enough on the underlier. And with Nvidia, you certainly have. It's been I think the one you were talking about was back here, right? Which did sell off on their earnings. Let me zoom out here just a hair. I think you're talking about this one back here, on the February 21st one, where it tanked a little bit. We had a couple days of it, and then it just screamed to the upside. ChatGPT does a great outline on Nvidia's split history and their stock moves. Huh? I'll have to check it out with ChatGPT. I have not used ChatGPT for things like that. Tom says, Wall Street analyst of Nvidia is all on the hype side. You should check non-Wall Street analysts. AI is decades old and near. Yeah, I don't think anybody is refuting that it's decades old. It's just the market dominance and how everybody's buying Nvidia. You know, if you were to go into the walls of Apple and Amazon and Meta and say, hey, whose chips are you buying for your AI? There's one. Right? It's Nvidia. Now, I personally think that will come to pass. I think that at a certain point, I mentioned this last week, I think you're going to get to a point where Apple's like, okay, we have enough of these chips. We need to get a rate of return on this investment, and we need to do that ASAP. So I definitely think it'll slow down at some point, but it is certainly the hype train. And, you know, some of the biggest losses I have ever seen sustained in trading have been people shorting something that is irrationally high, where it's some new technology that keeps on surging. I mentioned the Qualcomm story. So back in 1998, 1999, somewhere in that ballpark, you know, Qualcomm was having unbelievable moves to the upside with these wireless chips, and Qualcomm had 100-point up days. At the time, it was like a $50 stock, so 100-point up days was pretty unbelievable, and I was surrounded by people who were just shorting it, going, this is ridiculous, it makes no sense, it can't go any higher. Yeah, it did, and it wiped everybody out. So, you know, this Nvidia chart, I would say, has some parallels to the Qualcomm one I mentioned a while back, with groundbreaking technology, total leader in their space. Now, granted, Qualcomm had a lot of competition, showed up later, years down the road. We don't have that right now for Nvidia, but I think years down the road we will. And then also, you know, these AI chips, which are selling like hotcakes, they're going to slowly start to sell fewer and fewer of those. Now, if you watch the presentation, there was a presentation that Nvidia did several months back, which was amazing, and they revealed their new Rockwell chip, which is leaps and bounds better than anything in the marketplace today. One of the things that puts Nvidia in this unique position, dominant position, is it's kind of reinventing computing. The methods for computation and for computer structure is being changed by companies like ARM, like Nvidia, right? The old models we're used to, these 386 models, are dying on the vine. And if you are the leader with that new technology, the sky's the limit. So yeah, shorting Nvidia would be a dangerous thing to do. But I'm going to probably short it just for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, just because of that 10-to-1 split. That's pretty much the only reason I'd be doing that. As soon as it stops going, short Nvidia, the stock will fall. Let's see. Follow the trend until the bend of the end, right, Lisa? I love that one. The trend is your friend to the bend of the end. All right, let me go into one more thing here, and then we'll go open up to whatever questions you guys might have. Last piece I had was rate cuts. Oh, I love this picture. I said, give me a picture of Jerome. He doesn't really look like Jerome Powell. He looks a little bit different with the hair, but I said with a knife menacing, about to make some rate cuts. So, of course, this Friday, everybody, is the big day. We have our core PCE price index numbers coming out this Friday. That's going to be an interesting one. I really want to see what those numbers look like, how they come out. Sorry, I'm looking away because I'm trying to get this page open for you. And are we going to see heightened or lowered inflation? Now, Kashkari today said the possibility of rate hikes this year is not off the table. Ooh, not off the table. Rate hikes. So, don't forget, Bill Addis, who now owes me 3 beers from 3 failed wagers. He is telling me, it does look like LBJ. That's what I was thinking of. Yep. He owes me 3 beers already. He did a double or nothing. He could be to a 6-pack wagers against me for this one. I'm in the camp of 1 rate cut by the end of the year. Again, I believe that's going to be just for political posturing. However, again, if we see these next couple of core PCE price index numbers, you got a few more of them coming out before the election. If we see those numbers surge, the story could change dramatically. So let's look at what the expectations are right now. Right now, our next rate meeting is going to be about, I think we're 2 weeks away from our next rate meeting. Yeah, the 12th of June. And there's a 99% probability we're staying exactly where we're at. But notice what's different here. If we went back a week ago, there was a 3.5% chance of a 25 basis point cut. A cut. Now it's creeping back on the table. There might actually be a possibility, a slim chance of a rate hike. Now, what's causing that little 0.9%, so less than 1% chance of a rate hike? Inflation concerns. Remember, 2 weeks ago, what do we have? We had CPI numbers and PPI numbers come out. PPI showed much lower than expected. CPI much higher than expected. You're like, oh, wait a minute, where are we going here? So really interesting. Let's take a poll, Rick. Okay. Lisa, I wish I could give you permission to do the poll for me. It's tough to do these things and talk at the same time. So let's see. What will the look like by end of year? And we'll go right here. We'll say no cuts. Don't worry, I'll give you guys a chance here in just a second. 1 cut. I'll go 2 cuts. Add an option. I think this is 1 raise. 1. Okay. I'll leave it there. There's your poll. Sorry if I have typos in it, trying to type and talk at the same time and do a live show. A little bit stressful. But what will the rate cuts look like by the end of the year? Or rates look like? Will you get no cuts, 1 cut, 2 cut, or a raise? Boy, a raise would be very interesting to see. Now, I don't think. I think it would cost Biden the election. And I think that would be, the market right now is like, you better lower. You better lower. And voters would be upset about that one. The ECB is going to cut rates next month, most likely. Will that impact us? Sure. Right? Remember, when you cut rates on your currency, you're attempting to devalue your currency. So devaluing their currency brings more revenue to them. That balance, that TIC long-term purchases, right, it would make U.S. dollars could buy more goods and services coming out of the EU. So that would certainly help their economy. And now we had it for a long time as well. If you look at the U.S. markets, and I'll leave that poll up there for just a couple more minutes for you guys to do it. Let's go check out that dollar index. You know, we had pushed ours way down. All right, here's your dollar index going back into, let's do a weekly here, just so we can see the long term. The cheaper that dollar is, the better it is for our businesses. We pay back debt with lower interest rates. More people, foreigners, can buy more of our goods and services, right? So when we have a weak dollar, tourists are going to come over here and say, I'm going on vacation to America. I mean, it's like right now, I'm looking at going on vacation again. I'm thinking going in September, October, and I have 2 places in mind that I want to go to. Number 1 is Thailand, and number 2 is Vietnam. Let me see if I can bring up the Vietnamese dong. It's a weird currency. Let's go bring up Forex, and let's go US dollars, Vietnamese dong. So look at this chart here, guys. I mean, I mentioned this before. One of the best things I learned when I was in college was about interest rates. I had no idea about international exchange rates. And I asked my professor, I said, Jamal Munshi, I said, where do you go every year on your summer break? He goes, wherever the dollar buys me the most. And I was like, who thinks like that? I mean, let's be honest. How many of you, just type in the chat yes or no. How many, maybe you have in the last couple years, but how many of you have literally said, I'm going to go on vacation where the dollar buys me the most? We just don't think like that. You say, oh, I'm going to go to Ireland, I'm going to go to Italy, I'm going to go to France because I want to go to those countries. But if I can go to a country that I'm interested in and know that my dollar's buying me more than any other place on the planet, why wouldn't you go there? So here's a chart of the Thai dong. You can see if you go back to 1990, let's go to year 2000. It was 13,800 dong to a dollar. Keep your dirty minds to yourselves. You look here, you're at all-time highs. The dollar buys you 25,000 dong. That's insane. Wow. So cool to see somebody say no. I mean, it's something to think about. Like, I mean, Vietnam should be on the list for everybody here to visit. Let me see what the baht is like. So the baht has been kind of oscillating back and forth, but this Vietnamese dong is just, wow. I mean, that is a huge increase. You can buy so much more with your dollar there. Travel with the seasons. Let's go to baht, B-A-H-T. And here's the Thai baht. So Thai baht has definitely gone up in value a bit, but long term, it's not as dramatic as you saw with the Vietnamese dong. Somalia. See, Big MC, there's got to be an interest for me to go. I mean, unless you want to be a pirate in training, I don't see why I'd want to go to Somalia. No offense to Africa or Somalia. It's just, I'm a big fan of Asian cultures and food and all the products and services that are made in China, or in Vietnam. You can go by there and do your whole wardrobe at 1/10 the cost that you could here, and really nice custom-made stuff. Let's see what other countries. Let's go look at ones we all know and love. All right, this is a weekly. Let's say you wanted to go to Europe. All right, I'm going to go to the UK. Well, the UK is not the time to go. It's been getting worse and worse and worse, right? This is GBP versus USD. You can see here that the British pound, since those lows we saw back here in 2022, it's been getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So the pound, your dollar buys you less and less pounds. Here, this is the euro. So the euro has been pretty flat for the past 6-8 months, but it's definitely jumped since those lows we saw when I went back to Oktoberfest in 2022. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. What else? Say you wanted to go to Japan. Japan is actually very high in my list. Let me look at this one. This is the highest level that the Japanese yen. I got this. Look at this line out of here. I was measuring the breakout. We are at levels we have not seen since. Actually, we're right at supply since 1990. 1990. We're talking 34 years. It has not been this strong. And that U.S. dollar is just buying you more and more yen. And I'd love to go to Japan. Pretty sure that this year is going to be Japan, Thailand, or Vietnam. I love Thailand would be my number one choice, but the dong is it just buys you so much. Lori says, what about Australia? Well, here's the AUD USD. So this is the AUD losing power. So yes, you would get a lot more bang for your buck, right? So this is the inverse. Since the pair is listed as Australian dollars first, that means that the Australian dollar is falling against the U.S. dollar. So the U.S. dollar buys you more and more. Yeah. It's not all-time lows, but certainly, right now we're at 664. We've been there a few times over the years. The all-time low, at least on this chart, goes back to 2001, which would be 47.47 on the Australian USD, and we're at 66 right now, so not bad. Anyway, just something for you guys to think about as you get summer months and think about traveling. There used to be a phenomenal website, and I wish I could bring it back. I tried to create it for OTA. I love this site. And basically what it was, a map of the world, and you click your base currency. Like, where are you from? You click the United States. And every other country around the world would color code to how well their currency has performed against the dollar. And you could change the time scale. So you'd say, give me the last year. What's the worst performing currency against the dollar over the last year? And you just click on that. That's where you're going on vacation. Let's see. What do I got here? Japan is awesome. I've been there 3 times. Yeah, I'd definitely like to go. Indonesia. What's the Indonesian currency? I can't think off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank. Let's see. Yeah, and if you go to Indonesia, Katut. You're going to go to Katut. She knows. Katut, what's the currency? It's not Indonesian. Let me see. I might be able to just type it in here. Rupiah. So here you go. This is the U.S. dollar. I mean, you're talking also at all-time highs. It's up 100% since almost 100% since 2011. So that's still a long time. Yet the Rupiah still looks great. You can get a lot more bang for your buck. And again, even without needing a strong currency against the Rupiah, you have, Indonesia is very economic. Very cheaply priced, right? Very inexpensive place to visit, which is another reason why I like it. You have some countries that the currency might be strong against, but, it's expensive there anyway. Like if you were to go to Europe, and let's say the euro's falling and falling, like, oh, a great deal on the euro. Yeah, but their prices are really expensive anyway. If you look at Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, those prices for things there are cheap to begin with, dirt cheap. Then you add a weak currency on top of it, oh man. It's a bargain hunter's paradise. The IDR, yep. Is that what it came out as? It doesn't show the ticker symbol. It just gives me the names. All right. Yeah, it's a Rupiah. All right, so that's all I had for that one. Obviously, a lot of interesting pieces coming up for the remainder of the week. Let me show you your economic calendar for mañana. So today, actually, there is one piece I wanted to show you. The S&P Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index. We did see it move up. The expectation was it was actually 7.5, but they revised it as of early this morning to 7.4. Or sorry, 7.3 was the expectation. It came out at 7.4. So there we go. Click on that chart. Still looks good. While it's not accelerating as much as it has been for the last 8 months, it's still going up. That's important. You want to see this kind of keep going higher and higher. The previous reading was 7.3. Now we came out at 7.4. Great. keep on moving up. Again, that means wealth. That means more and more wealth. Yep, the euro in Greece. All right, so that was yours for today. There was a couple other things, but that was the most important one. If you look at tomorrow's activity, you see you don't have really anything in red. There's nothing important for the U.S. You have Richmond Manufacturing Index numbers coming out. That's pretty much it. We do have a bunch of central bankers speaking. So the Reserve Bank of Australia has Hunter speaking. You have Bostic speaking for the U.S. and Jordan speaking for the Swiss National Bank. So those are your big economic announcements. And then on the earnings front, not much is going on. There's really not a lot happening on the earnings front this week. I believe Thursday is kind of a bigger day, but we'll get to that when we look later on in the week. Tomorrow, you have some retailers. You have Salesforce. You've got Abercrombie and Fitch, and I think that's it. I think you have like American Eagle and Dick's Sporting Goods, if I can remember off the top of my head. But those are your companies reporting earnings tomorrow. So tomorrow's show is going to be fun. So Larry Jacobson told me he's got a new addition to his portfolio. So we're going to bring that one on. I won't tell you what it is, but he's got a new addition to his portfolio. You know, he likes to use a Warren Buffett type of approach to analysis from a fundamental perspective. And he's always, not always, but most of them have been pretty significant movers. And I'm curious to see what he's going to bring on the program for tomorrow. So Larry Jacobson will be our guest on tomorrow's show. If you have any question for, Costco's Thursday, Lisa. If you have any questions for Larry, you can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com, which is on your screen right now. And you can also just put them down below any comment on YouTube videos. I did not look at the comments for today's show because I'm just so dang busy. This week is kind of chaos for me, so I apologize if I seem scattered. The results of our poll, just so I can get that out there for you. Here is the results of it. Should pop up in there any second. Hello, where'd it go? It's just taking a second to process. Otherwise, I should have done that one earlier, but I was just toying around here. I don't know why. Where is the, give me the result of my poll. All right, it doesn't want to give me the results of my poll, so I'll just leave that one there. Usually it shows up right away, so apparently something's wrong with my system because where's my poll? Okay, well, that's going to do it, guys. Again, if you have questions for Larry or myself, most of the show tomorrow will be Larry explaining this position. We're looking at the fundamentals, kind of breaking it down line by line, and then time permitting, because I know Larry's pretty busy as well, we will go and look at whatever viewer questions. There's the poll. I see it now. One cut, 55%. No cuts, 30%. Two cuts, 8%. One raise, 5%. Interesting. All right. I personally, I think it's going to be between the one cut and the no cuts. A raise, I think, would be too... The only way I think we'd see a raise is if we really get a surge in inflation. That's the only thing the Fed is mattering with the Fed. Unemployment doesn't matter at this point because it's so low. So, all right. Thank you guys for the messaging me in the rates. For some reason, it took forever to show up on my screen, but cool. That's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed. Have a fantastic remainder of your day. I will see you with Larry Jacobson on tomorrow's show. And don't forget, hit that thumbs up if you like it. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.